Hello, everyone. This is the second part of interview. Ema Rimeike from Quantum Cybersecurity Skills and my guest, Elad Ortiz. So in this interview part, we're going to cover a second question. And it starts with a statement. A Ponemon Institute report suggests that cybercrime drains about 12 million US dollars per business annually. And it's up by 62% in the last 5 years. So what SOC metrics help to engage senior leadership, including ones at the board level, that lead to an increased appetite for organizational resilience, higher security budgets, and literally more recognition of SOC efforts to secure the organization? What are your views?
Well, first of all, the first thing that needs to be done foremost is tune your SIM system or your centralized monitoring system, whatever you would call it. But that needs to be tuned really good because of the reason you need to have your alerts configured properly in order to trigger them properly, because that will set the path for the rest of the steps, basically, of what you need to do in order even to engage in a basic level, higher, upper management, especially, because they're not technical people. They want to see a name and a result. That's what they want. So you need to first fine tune your results and not have any false positives. And that steps requires, first of all, learning your centralized system properly, knowing the right support, external support when you have the budget to choose that will help you fine tune it, which is a critical issue, because I've seen a lot of SIM systems that were they call them tuned. I called it I can't see nothing. So that happens a lot, and that's the first step that has to be done, because that will set the course for the rest of the steps. Then the second thing that needs to be done basically is create a relationship with the networking team in the organization, between the SOC and the networking team, and with the system administration. Why is that? That's one of the most critical steps, because I'm laughing because I've experienced it firsthand, where you say, to the networking team, I see errors and I see something that's interrupting our network, and they're, you're just talking nonsense. We don't need that, stuff like that. But once you do, you create a good relationship between the teams that establishes a good framework for the organization, because the SOC becomes the central point between those two teams. And then you start becoming really, that's the initial step to becoming a critical section inside the organization. Because until you don't have that type of relationship, you're just the security monitoring team, but you're not. But once you have the relationship, you're also helping them out, helping them out with processes, and start, even coming over to them and asking them, what do you need help with monitoring? Because we have the eyes on it. Let us know so we can, and then, they start looking at you like, what? And you explain to them, like, we're not looking at what your activity is. We're trying to help out your processes. And if there's spots that you cannot see because you don't have access, you don't have the permissions, you don't have the correct users to, whatever credentials, we have the eyes on it. We could give you the eyes. We could give you it in a report by email. You don't have to talk to me. I could just give you the information. Just tell me what you need. And then that starts making you a critical section, even to the networking team, even before upper management, before anyone else. It makes you critical to the different teams, first of all. And then, you start working around the other teams, around, first those two, and then you could work around the rest of the teams. So you become a critical central point inside the organization. Then, after you have those relationships and you start knowing what's the processes inside your organization, and you start talking with the system and administration, and you start categorizing what's, the severity of your alerts inside your organization. And that will start, the step for the KPI reports, the key risk indicators. So that's what upper management understands. So you need to start tuning those type of sections, to start giving the criticality and severity, and what were the responses that need to be done with each type of severity of alert. And that's what management wants to see. That's what they need to see, because that, in order to justify some sort of budget, you need to show what you're doing, and that you're giving results, and you could show them statistics. So once you start giving that out, that starts, making you critical to upper management, because upper management does not know how to do those type of statistics, and they do not want to get into that. And once they're dealing with most of the other teams to get those type of that type of data, they need to explain why they need that data. But with security operation teams, they know why that data is critical, because you come from a background that what's a vulnerability assessment and what that means, and risk assessment, and you need to know, you need to come with a background. Once you're starting to see that, you see what's becoming critical inside the organization. So upper management wants those type of metrics. That's what they need, and that's how you can quantify your budget, basically.
I think this is sorry for interrupting you. I think I would like to pause here, and it's really very insightful advice. I think it's also very critical to report SOC Security Operations Center efforts. Not only how many incidents we stopped, and how many events there were, and so on, but as you say, there were the highest level critical incidents we have stopped, and maybe potentially, please correct me, but that would it give an added value to the board of directors or someone at the higher management level if you could also translate the potential impact to the business? When you say, this was of high probability, top critical incident we have stopped, and potentially to start with, it could have cost us XYZ for the business, because the manufacturing plant would have been shut down for a day or two, and so on, the critical systems and so on.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly the next step to start doing. Once you start showing results, some sort of results, that's the initial step. And then you start going into monitoring business processes. Once you start, first you give those type of first initial metrics, you create dashboards, you create all those type of metrics, the reports that they need, and you start sending them, regularly, and you send them the links to the dashboards that they want to view, and put it on their monitors, so they start feeling good about it, and they see it every day in there, all the time, because they like to see those dashboards. Let's be real. And then the SOC, once they start gaining that trust with the upper management, they could start approaching them and asking, about business processes, and how could they monitor those business processes, and where could the security operations center team say, look, this is where the business process is not going correct, and we might lose here some money. For instance, if it's hypothetical, it's a greenhouse company. They grow cucumbers, and if let's say, and if they could monitor the air venting system, what does that have to do with security? Nothing. But if the air venting system goes down, it goes up 5 degrees, our cucumbers will not get the same yield or something like that. So, if the security operations center starts going into those type of processes and saying, look, we're going to lose your money, that's when you really become critical to upper management. When you start pointing at money loss, points that you could, along the process where you can pinpoint and say, okay, we could lose your money. And I'm alerting that we're losing money, and those alerts start triggering. And management sees the responses and the reports that are being done, about it. Then you really become critical because you're preventing money loss.
Yes.
And that's the highest priority of any business. What can we do? We're in the real world. We need to make money in order to pay our workers. So that's the highest, priority for management. They sometimes upper management, the way they react to to the workers, it's because and the workers get offended is because they see first the first priority of money, because that's what they need to keep the business running. So once you're pinpointing those points, that's really critical.
And to your point, again, I was listening and I was just thinking, so probably for consideration, the SOC leaders should not only report of SOC activities to the board level, but there should be more partnership, and the SOC security operations managers asking up front, establishing the process. So what would be the cost, of high risk, highest impact vulnerability not being stopped? What is the cost? So there is like a communication, what's important for me, what's important for you, and we communicate about the efficiency. What do we all do to protect it? I think it's also a very good thing.
With SOC management, it's very important to have a strong mediator, to have someone that has a good relationship with the upper management or has an impact with upper management. Because if you don't have that type of SOC leader that has he's a good mediator, and he cares, he needs to have to care about his organization really, have to really care, with his really real feelings, because you have to really want to, in order to drive that type of operation, it's very hard. We all know that. It's very hard work, and you need to love the field. So it's very important to have a good mediator.
So would you say the mediator would be Chief Information Officer or Chief Information Security Officer or someone from the business? What's your practice? What's your experience?
First, Chief Information Officer. He has to have a good understanding, a good technical understanding, in order to understand the security operation teams properly and all of their processes and how they work, and not just in a high level. So that's very important also. But even more important is the actual SOC manager, that he knows how to, even more sometimes than the CISO itself, he needs to be the person to reflect the security operation teams. He's the one that needs to mediate really what's going on from inside the organization and between the security operation teams, because they're always kind of closed up inside their section, and they just monitor, and then you hear them when they're alerting and they're triggering people to go and check things and stuff like that. So that's the most important is the SOC manager, that he knows how to reflect and he knows how to carry his team properly and push it all forward, because that's the real critical point. Because the CISO, that's his job. He's more regulations, but it's also important for him to be technical.
And what skill, one or two top skill sets would you identify for the SOC leader to be successful in rightly echoing, representing his or her team? What would be those two, one or two, skills?
I would say a good set of knowledge of different technologies, not only system administration, but he knows programming, a wide variety of technologies and how to really use them and what they mean. And leadership skills, of course.
Leadership, yeah. Well, Elad, I really enjoyed, again, we spent almost 16 minutes on covering one question. I really like the deep dive we are doing here, and I think some really good thoughts are coming through, thoughts to think, and not just think, put them into action, test. Would that work in my organization for the whole big benefit? So we will be covering the third question in a separate video. I would like to thank you so much for your very insightful views. And yeah, I see you soon. Thank you.
Yeah.